Okay, welcome back to another fun-filled video. In this video, I'm going to talk specifically about US measurements. Now, US measurements, when we're talking about units of measure in terms of length, so you need to pay very close attention that these are talking specifically about length. There are certain measurements that we have to pay attention to. So we have inches, feet, yards, miles, etc. There are some basic conversion factors that anybody who is doing measurements kind of has to know. The first is that when we have 12 inches, that's the same as 1 foot. And we like to abbreviate that with FT. 3 feet is the same as 1 yard. And then 5,280 feet is 1 mile. So those are some main conversions that are just kind of considered to be second nature, i.e. just that you would need to know them. Now, in order to make a conversion, there's a few ways that you can approach it. First is you can do what's called the table format. It means you're creating a table with your values, and then essentially you are multiplying everything straight across the top and then straight across the bottom and reducing your fractions. Now, in order to create your table, you need to make sure that you match your units diagonally, meaning if in your first column you say had inches on the top, then in your second column you need to have inches on the bottom. Okay? When you multiply together, you're looking that your conversion unit is going to disappear and leave behind the unit that you wanted. Another way that you could do it is by just simply recognizing what conversion you have, what it is you want to have, and recognizing the basic conversion factors that you would have to use in order to convert it. Personally, I don't recommend that method just because that's a lot of conversion factors that you would have to remember. For me, it's always been easier to just simply create the table format idea and remove my factors from there. So I've got a couple different examples that I wanted to show you demonstrating just that. So here what you need to do is perform the indicated conversion. So we want to go from 10 yards into some unknown feet. And so here the table format says I have 10 yards on the top. And then I want some unknown feet, so I need to use my conversion factor, which says that there are 3 feet per yard. Since I want feet and I have feet on the top here, that means my table is done. So if you look at it, I have set up my diagonal with yards. The yards goes away. And this is going to leave me with multiplying my 10 times 3, and that'll give me feet. So in this case we get 30 feet. Now, some students prefer looking at it through the eyes of fractions. So to do that is very simple. It just simply means instead of setting up this table format, my first term would be 10 yards. And then my second term would be 3 feet per yard. Again, that sets up for you to cancel out your yards. And then just like before, leaves us with 30 feet. So whether you use an actual table format or you use it like fractions doesn't matter as long as you are canceling top to bottom with your units. Alright, let's look at another one. So here I have 63 inches and I want to know how many feet. So I start with my 63 inches. And then I know that for every foot there are 12 inches in a foot. Since I now have my feet on top, which is what I wanted, you can see my inches will cancel since they're diagonal top to bottom. So going straight across, this is going to give me 63 over 12 feet, which is going to be the same as 5.25 feet. Now, in terms of decimals, give the decimal if you're told. Otherwise, you can give a reduced fraction as far as you can go. So, depending on what you've been given, just make sure you pay very close attention that you are putting your answer in the terms that you are supposed to. Now here I have 11,616 feet. I want miles. So I need to start with the 11,616 feet. I know that I have in every mile 5,280 feet. So again, looking at it, my feet are diagonal from each other, so they cancel. So in performing my math, this would be 11,616 over 5,280 feet, which is going to, or sorry, not feet, miles, which is going to give me 2.2 miles. Alright, last I have yards into feet. So if you notice, there really isn't, or yards into inches, there isn't a clear path to do that. So what we actually have to do is we have to go from yards into feet and then into inches. So my table is going to be a little bit bigger. So here, if we look at it, we're going to start with 6 1/3 yards. I then know that I have 3 feet per yard. And then I also know that there are 12 inches per foot. So if you look carefully, notice I have yards top to bottom, I have feet top to bottom, and it leaves me with inches in the end. Okay, so it doesn't matter how big your tables get as long as you're left with what you want in the end. So here, if I look 6 1/3, this is going to be the same as 19 over 3. And we're going to multiply that by 3 and multiply that by 12, which is going to give us inches. So here, what we're left with is 228 inches. Now, if you noticed in all of those examples, I was very, very careful to make sure that I included my units. So when you're dealing with measurement, you have to be super careful that you include your units with everything you do. So those were examples of length. Now, another US measurement that we have is we have what's called weight. Okay, so in weight, we are talking about things like ounces, pounds, or tons. And we do have a couple conversions that you could be aware of. First and foremost, 16 ounces, that's the same as 1 pound. And 2,000 pounds is the same as 1 ton. Again, then the root math is the same as when we were doing length. You just simply have to convert from one to another using the conversion factors you know. So here I want to go from pounds into ounces. So I'm going to start with my 10 pounds. And then I know that there are 16 ounces per pound. That's going to get me what I want on top, my ounce or my pounds here are going to go away. And so I'm going to be left with 10 times 16 ounces. So in other words, 160 ounces. Now here I have 3,200 ounces that I want to get into tons. Well, in order to get that, if you pay attention to your conversion factors, notice I have a pound conversion here. So I have to go from ounces, so I'm going from ounces into pounds and then into tons. So here I know that I have 1 pound is the same as 16 ounces. And then from there I know that 1 ton is the same as 2,000 pounds. So again, if we look, notice we're going to cancel top to bottom, so ounces across and pounds across. So here this is going to leave us with 3,200 over 16 times 2,000 tons. So when we do that, we end up getting 0.1 tons. Another unit of measure that we have here is called capacity. Capacity is essentially liquid measure. So we have capacity, so we are talking about liquids. And again, just like before, we have some conversion factors to keep in mind. So when we have 8 fluid ounces, that would be the same as 1 cup. 2 cups is the same as 1 pint. 2 pints is the same as 1 quart. And then 4 quarts is the same as 1 gallon. So again, the math now is completely identical. We're going to convert from one liquid measure to another using the conversion factors that we have. So I have 9.6 ounces, and I want to go from ounces into pints. So I have to take a look at what exactly I have going on here. So I have ounces goes to cups and cups goes to pints. So here my fluid ounces is going to go to cups, is going to go to pints. So I have the 9.6 fluid ounces is going to be the same as 1 cup per 8 ounces. And then that's going to give me that 1 pint is the same as 2 cups. So if you look at it, we've got my ounces goes away, my cups goes away, leaves me with my pints. So here this is the same as 9 over 8 times 2 pints. So that is going to give me 9.6. So 0.6 pints. Now here I'm going to go from gallons into pints. So the first thing I need to do is I need to go from gallons, and I need to take that into quarts, and then from quarts I can go to pints. So I've got 5 gallons, and so here I know that I've got 4 quarts per gallon. And then I know that I've got 2 pints per quart. So again, looking closely, my gallons cancel, my quarts cancel, and it leaves behind 5 times 4 times 2 pints. So here this ends up being 40 pints. Okay, capacity. Now, the last big major unit of measure that we have under US measurements is we have the measure of time. Now, the measure of time is something that you're just expected to know regardless of your level of student. And so here, when we're talking about your conversion factors, this is the biggies you have to remember. 60 seconds is a minute. 60 minutes is an hour. 24 hours is a day. And then 7 days is a week. So those are kind of the big ones that we are looking at. And so again, you're going to simply go from one to the other. So I want to go from minutes to hours. So I have 150 minutes. And I know that 1 hour is the same as 60 minutes. So here my minutes are going to cancel. This is going to leave me with 150 over my 60, and that gives me the hours. So in other words, I have 2.5 hours. Alright, let's go from hours into days. So I have 96 hours. I know that 1 day is the same as 24 hours. So again, my hours are going to cancel. And this is going to leave me with 96 over 24 days. So when we do that, we end up getting that this is the same as 4 days. Now, those are the straightforward ones. The other thing that we can do with our measurements is we can look at them in word problems. And so here, what you have to be able to do is you have to be able to figure out what it is that the problem is telling you and what conversion it is that you need to make. So the first one says, find the area in square feet of a rectangle that is 1.5 feet by 7 inches. So there's a couple things that are really important. First, I want square feet. So this means I'm looking for an answer that's going to end up being feet squared. Second, I have 1.5 feet by 7 inches. So I'm going to have to convert, and my conversion has to go from inches into feet because I want feet squared as a result. So I have a rectangle here, and my rectangle here is 7 inches by 1.5 feet. So I need to convert first that my 7 inches has to change to feet, so I know that there is 1 foot per 12 inches. So in this case, my inches are going to go away, and it's going to leave me with 7 over 12 feet. Now, in this case, I would leave it as a fraction for now because my other length is a fraction. So here, we need to remember area is going to be length times width. So here, what we're actually doing is we are doing 1.5 feet times 7 over 12 feet. Well, 1.5 is the same as 3/2, and we're multiplying that by 7 over 12 feet. Well, when we do that, again, this goes straight back to knowing how to work with fractions. So here I've got this 3 over 12 piece that can reduce down. So here 3 goes away, leaves me with 1, 12 goes away and becomes a 4. So in this case, when we go straight across, this is going to give me width 7 over 2 times 4, which is 8 feet squared. Alright, let's look at this last one here. It says if sheer fabric costs $7.99 per yard, if it will take 35 feet of fabric to make drapes for the entire house, how much must you spend on fabric for the drapes to the nearest cent? So here, what we want is money. So I have $7.99, and this is per yard. I also have 35 feet. So I'm using 35 feet here. And lastly, I know that I have a conversion factor. And that conversion factor says for every yard I have, 3 feet is the conversion. So if you notice, money is on the top, and if we take a look at our units, I have yards top to bottom, and I have feet top to bottom. So here, what this leaves me with is $7.99 times 35 all over 3, and that is going to give me my dollars. So in this case, rounded to the nearest cent, we're going to get $93.22. Alright, so there you go. That is everything that you would need to know about US measurements and how to work with conversions and how to relate them to application problems. So if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed. Remember to relax, and I'll see you next time.